Right, welcome back. It's Change Your Life 2012. It's our charity special. It's our hope show. We start the first day of the year with hope. We usually also start with the #1 citizen of the state that has hosted us and taken care of us for the past 10 years, and that would be Lagos State. And the chief executive of Lagos State is, of course, Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola, who is right here with me this morning. Good morning, Governor.
Good morning to me. Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all Lagosians and all Nigerians who are watching, to all the children and all the parents who are in the studio, and to all good people who look forward to a very prosperous year. I say Happy New Year to all of you.
Right. During the elections in April 2011, and immediately after the aftermath of the violence that occurred, I noticed that you were one of the leaders who stepped forward then, who acknowledged the violence that has occurred, particularly to our young people, the coppers and all of that. Listening to Mr. Teju, whilst he was talking, what did you feel as a leader? What did you feel could be done?
Well, I think that it was a very heartbreaking story, watching and listening, and it really was the destruction of so much promise in young people, and for a family, and for a nation, really. And one feels really heartbroken, and you know, when people die, I think that something in us also dies, especially young people for whom there is so much hope, for whom there's so much promise. And when I saw that, talking about his small soldier uniform, all of the excitement, and it has all come almost to naught. But that is one side of the story. I think that it is important for us, as I said before, that those young people gave us at least the most credible elections we have ever had. And it is incumbent on all of us now who exercise authority by virtue of those elections to ensure that their efforts and the sacrifice that some of them have made with their lives is not in vain. It must happen by being more diligent with what we do, by being more honest in the way that we do our work, by ensuring that the policies and programs that we enunciate create the greatest good for the possible greatest number, by ensuring that people like, I think Fumi was her name, Christiana was her name, get a job without agonizing in order to get one. Because the idea of a job also is that she wants to legitimately earn a living in a dignified manner in a country for whom she has put in so much, and for whom she stands the potential to also contribute so much. So for me, that must be the positive takeaway, that those children have given us with their blood very credible elections by which some of us exercise power. It must be incumbent upon us now to give something back to that generation.
What should our policy, because there's a lot of talk regarding youth going forward, because I think that all governments on all levels was moved by the sacrifice of the coppers and all the things that happened there. And so there's been a lot of talk and movements in the area of youth. But what should Nigeria's youth policy, particularly in the area of job creation, what should it begin to look like going forward? And how important is that to the stability of the country?
I think that we probably miss the picture if we focus on job creation as an end. Job creation would be a consequence of the restoration and the reformation and the revival of our national economy. It will be the logical consequence of improved electricity. It will be the logical consequence of a curriculum change and an attitude change that focuses on areas like agriculture. It will be the logical consequence of expanded opportunities in the economy where there is growth, there is productivity. And this will happen only by the promotion of policies and programs that create competition first in the public sector among states, that creates productivity as a result of that, and from that productivity will come growth. As long as we continue to run an economy of dependence, an economy of grants, an economy of rents, we undermine the potentials for employment. And one is happy to acknowledge that I am experiencing, I'm seeing movements and movements here. Young people taking control of their lives, starting small businesses and little enterprises, and from which, and it's the way Change a Life has grown. It's a story of commitment in itself. A very small idea, and people have persevered. You have persevered, and you also deserve the commendation of all of these young people. And this is the story of Nigeria that must change. We must stay with our convictions, we must run with our convictions, and we must persevere with them. This could have been a forgotten story if you have not persevered. And I know what it took to get to this 10th anniversary. And I believe that the lesson from Change a Life should be the lesson for Nigeria. Perseverance at what we think is right, perseverance at what we believe is true, perseverance at what we believe will prosper us, so that in doing so, we will see the results that we expect. Things will not happen by magic. It will happen by dint of sheer hard work and commitment by people. It's going to require every hand on deck in this country to transform this country. And it's going to require peace and stability and religious tolerance and coexistence, ethnic tolerance and coexistence to build this nation. We will not build it in a situation of rancor, in a situation of violence, in a situation of pain and fear.
Thank you. I've got to ask you one question, then we'll go on a break, because there's talking about transformation and people persevering. There's also someone that I have taken inspiration from for years, took on a project that I think will be transformative going forward for this environment and even beyond, and just done it quietly and silently for years. But I must ask you what your New Year resolution is.
Well, at this moment, I normally don't make New Year resolutions, but the message for the people of Lagos is that we will go out there with a renewed commitment to make things better. We are mindful of your expectations, we remain conscious of them, and as soon as the budget is passed, you will see us again running hard, running diligently, working hard night and day in the sun and in the rain to make things better. And that's what we have been doing for the last 72 hours. I have hardly shut my eyes, really. Meetings after meetings, but it will be well.
Right.
All will be well.
I just had one question quickly sent to me that I had forgotten. Everybody said you must clear this controversy concerning LASU and the fees.
Let me simply say that we mean well, and the idea behind LASU fees is that, one, it does not affect the students who are currently in school, and none of them will pay an extra cover until they graduate. Now, the policy, as it affects those who are coming, we are also mindful that there will be indigent students amongst them, and we have made provisions for scholarships for any indigent child who cannot afford it. They should apply to the Ministry of Education, and we will give a scholarship. But I think it is important also to recognize that the problem that our schools face today is one of quality. And university education is an aspirational education. We want to attract the best, put in the best there. And those who will take the time to visit LASU, we see the change that is already going on there in terms of rebuilding and repositioning LASU. And final word on that is that we acted on the report of the visitation panel, which the students themselves asked us to set up. And the school fees was only one part of that report. There were so many other recommendations that were contained in that report that we have implemented.
Right. All right, we've got to take a break. When we come back from the break, we're going to meet who I consider to be one of Nigeria's most innovative heroes. Right after the break.
was set up over 10 years ago to make sure that all African languages can be used on information communication technologies, both to be able to use them in literacy and also to be able to use these languages in some of their oral forms. So we use multimedia to help oral languages to use the computer, and languages that have already been reduced to writing, we use writing, the writing approach. We've done work in speech synthesis, which is to create speech from written text. We've done work in speech recognition, which is to create written text from speech. We've done work in machine translation, which is to translate maybe, for example, from Igbo into English, from Yoruba into English, and vice versa. We've done work in making mobile phones remind patients of the use of their drugs. So if somebody goes to the hospital, the doctor can pass the information onto their phone. We also are working on human capacity development, because all the people who work here are some of my former students who we have now been trained to write programs at the level of artificial intelligence, creating the kind of applications that make them experts in writing computer programs and generally in ICT. Let me show you some of the applications that we have.
I'm Lydia Odulinye. I work at Alt-I. I designed an application called Automatic Diacritization of Yoruba Text. It's an application designed to handle the peculiarities of the Nigerian language. The user simply types in the words in the normal English and it puts the appropriate tonal marks for it.
My name is Olaihanitu. I work with Alt-I. I've implemented a software that translates from a source language to a target language, in this case from Igbo to English and vice versa, to do the translation from Igbo to English.
Well, we've done quite a number of things. First of all, we worked in partnership with Microsoft to create Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa interfaces for Windows and Office. That includes Windows Vista, Windows 7, 2 of which have been completed already. We are working on Windows 8 now, such that when you switch on your computer, all the user interface will be seen in either Igbo, Yoruba, or Hausa. But apart from that, we are working in speech synthesis, that is,
welcome back. In fact, the documentary has to stop at that stage because they're doing so much work, and some of it is so technical, it's hard for just the average person to understand. So some of it I would actually break down. But with me in the studio this morning is the CEO of African Languages Technologies Initiative, that's Alt-I, Mr. Tunde Adegbola. Mr. Tunde Adegbola is a pretty special person because he's a scientist, a consulting engineer, a cultural activist. He also plays music and is a sports enthusiast. He was also the one that set up many of the private television stations you see in Nigeria, the initial backbone of those stations, radios and television stations. He's the one that set it up. In short, he's a genius. Good morning, Mr. Adegbola.
Thank you very much.
Very good to see you.
Thank you.
Also, like all geniuses, all you do is you just get down and you are doing the work. You never look up to see what's going on, to see how much work you have done. One of the things I was explaining to somebody who was watching that yesterday, I said, look, let me give you a practical application. That a lot of the applications that have been developed worldwide, and we are very quick adopters. It's like all those navigation things or teaching things, you speak to them. A lot of the things now, you speak to it, it converts to writing, or you write to it, it converts to speech. But if you have to speak to it, no matter how good your English is, it doesn't understand your accents. So I'm talking to some computer and it doesn't understand my English because I have a Nigerian accent, or I have a Ghanaian accent, or the English has a Welsh accent. It doesn't understand it. But they are not going to solve our problems for us. We will have to solve it. So now, with the kind of work they are doing, you just switch to your mother tongue, which is why we now have to remember to learn our mother tongue. Then you can speak Yoruba to it, or Hausa, or Igbo, or Ibibio, or all the languages, and it will translate it. It's amazing, the work that you are doing. And that you are quiet about it is just a miracle. What did you want to achieve?
Well, as you said, I trained as an engineer and I've worked in media all my life. But I came to the realization that there's no record in history of a nation that became great having adopted another nation's language. And I looked at the so-called Asian tigers, and I found that each of them have continued to use their languages to engender development. And it would appear, therefore, that we are not likely to achieve what we want to achieve with the kind of English we speak to each other. So, since we have our languages, and since we now have technologies that can valorize, that can improve the capacity of our languages in communication, then we should apply these technologies to achieve some of these things. This was my motivation, and this is why I kind of abandoned my career in engineering.
Because we just didn't see you anymore. You went to Ibadan, you got this bungalow, and you started. How did you started on nothing?
Well, I started on the grace of God. Like you said, I did quite some work with television stations, AIT, Muri, channels. When they all started, I designed them, supplied them, built them,